guys need. We can stop at any time. And then also, this is obviously not live, so if there's anything that you say and then kind of decide you don't want to be put in the video, just let us know. We can definitely make sure that that doesn't happen. I mentioned this in my email, but we plan to use these videos in the hospital, so if families are either struggling to make a decision about donation, or if their loved one was a registered donor and they're still really struggling with that decision, just to provide them some additional comfort and to hear from families who have been through what they're going through.
Okay.
So that's how we plan to use it today.
Not sure we need that.
Yeah, I don't know over here.
I don't understand
I don't know, did I break something? In my head?
No, we're just turning off the noise so it doesn't interrupt you guys speaking.
There's no
I
buttons on the
came
television.
from, I think it came from that speaker.
Yeah, I was just gonna turn the TV off and hope that it would.
Oh, there's no buttons.
There's no buttons.
It's hard to turn this TV off because it's plugged in.
Technology is not always our friend. Here's our little remote.
For the Apple TV though, I think. If that doesn't work, we can just
It's fine.
work around it.
Like each other real quick.
Alright, I'm good, guys.
If you just wanna start by introducing yourself and
Back
your,
a little bit. Sorry. Perfect.
sorry, and your, connection to donation and the organization.
Go ahead.
We're Randy and Julie, and our son Cody was an organ donor 6 years ago. They used his heart, his lungs, his kidneys, his pancreas went to research at the Diabetes Association. Since I was a diabetic since 4 years old, they wanted to use it for research. It's been 6 years, and the donation process has been a wonderful healing and therapeutic road for us.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah, sounds great.
Can I scoot a little closer?
Yes.
So you can look at the camera or me, whichever is
Okay.
more comfortable for you all. Can you just kind of tell me about Cody? Tell me what he was like.
Cody was 21. He was going to Trine University. He was in his junior year. He was studying engineering. He played football in grade school, middle school, high school, and then went on to play in college. He was very active, loved demolition derbies, loved to deer hunt, loved to pick on his sister, loved spending time with us as a family. You would always find his friends and him at our house all the time. When he was home from college on break, everybody was at our house, and it was nothing for him to have all of his friends over, and we were just kind of like the cool parents, I guess, because everybody wanted to be there. And Cody had a lot of friends and was very active in football, FFA, 4-H. I mean, he loved baseball, didn't play, but he loved baseball. And I know on Sundays we would always sit down and watch the football games, and he would teach me a lot, even though I went to his games. But he would teach me a lot, and that was always our time and his dad's time. And his dad liked the Cowboys, we liked the Colts, so there was always a little bit of bad talk in the house. But we loved it, and we still do. We do it every Sunday to honor him. So.
Randy, can you tell me one of your favorite memories of Cody?
I would say it was probably the he liked Jeff Saturday, and a friend of mine give us tickets to go to the Colts, and we were 4 rows from the field. They were great seats. He didn't get his autograph, but he got a jersey, Jeff Saturday jersey, and that's all he could talk about for months after that. Everybody loved Cody. I mean, he was a easygoing kid. He never had any enemies. He was a good kid. Yeah.
Thank you both for sharing and letting us get to know Cody. So can you tell me a little bit what it was like to learn of his passing and what that time in the hospital was like for you? Whatever you feel comfortable with sharing, don't feel like you need to share anything that you would rather not talk about.
I was not home. Randy got a text from Cody and said he needed to come home. Long story short, Randy went home, called 911. Samaritan came. They took him to a Fort Wayne hospital. They found me. I was with my best friend, and they had found me and took me to the hospital. I didn't know why. I knew it wasn't Randy. I knew it wasn't Lindsay. They said it was Cody, and that's all they said. So we get there, and I remember walking in, and it just being like a dream almost. And they sat us down, and they talked about everything that was going on with Cody. And we knew that he was an organ donor. But when you're in that situation, it's kind of like, well, wait a minute, what's going on, you know? And they walked us through everything. The transplant coordinator came in. She was wonderful. Walked us through everything, honored our wishes, what we wanted to do, what we didn't want to do, as far as donation. And she really listened to our story about Cody, got to know Cody, got to know Randy, knew that he liked Pepsi, and she made sure he had a Pepsi around the clock because we didn't leave. We were blessed to have a couple extra days with Cody because there was some issues with getting the staff up to Fort Wayne from Indy because it was winter. And so we were blessed to have a couple extra days. But I'll tell you what, she made it. She got us a Ronald McDonald House so we could stay there and shower. They just really made us feel like we were the only ones and that our son mattered and that he was a hero, which we already felt that he was. But we never second guessed his decision, our decisions, and we still haven't. And we haven't second guessed anything. We really had wonderful staff from Indiana Donor Network walk us through everything and be with us side by side, explaining everything, telling us what was going on. There was never a moment that we didn't know what was going on. They kept us in the loop 100%.
Thank you for sharing and talking about a really difficult time. Can you talk a little bit about how donation has aided in your grief journey after losing Cody?
We met the young man that got Cody's heart, and that was a blessing for me because I could still hear Cody's heart beating. That recipient has went on to compete in the World Games for Paralympics and stuff, and he would have never got to do that without Cody's heart. He's stronger. He's been sick since he was little, so he's getting to live life like Cody would have wanted to live life. Travel and have fun and pursue the things that he wanted to do. So that to me has been the biggest blessing because we've seen his legacy go on. We can keep his memory alive by saying his name and honoring him, but this, young man is truly living his dreams, and that to me is the biggest comfort there is.
What would you say to other families who are struggling to say yes?
It's hard in the situation, and I know it is. And our son was a donor. I mean, he had it on his license, but I have always felt like giving somebody a second chance is truly a blessing. And the nurses and the doctors and everybody that's involved truly care. And they care about the recipient. They care about the donors. They care about everybody. And that's the biggest peace of mind a parent like myself can have, is our son was never a number. He still is not a number. If I call here today, they still can answer questions for me. And that's the biggest thing in grief, that you always want answers, especially as a mom. You always want answers. And I've never been left without an answer for what I want to know at the time.
Thank you very much for sharing all of that. As a family who is now impacted by donation in a different way, what would you say to maybe the family of your potential kidney match?
As a mom, as a grandma that needs a transplant, as a spouse, my husband comes home and takes care of me every night. We do dialysis after he gets off work. To not have to be hooked up to that machine to live. I feel like I exist right now, but I don't live life like I want to. And I want to watch my granddaughter grow up. I want to watch my daughter continue to succeed and her husband. And I would love a second chance at life. I've been, the cancer is what killed my kidneys and why I need a transplant now. But I am a fighter, and it breaks my heart that somebody has to go through what we've had to go through with losing a child or losing somebody you love. But there is somebody on the other side that truly wants to live and get back to life and not rely on a machine, to be able to be a husband and wife again and not a doctor patient would be so wonderful, to be able to do the things that we've put on hold for 7 years.
And then just kind of the last question that I have, can you talk a little bit more about those few extra days that you had with Cody in the hospital and how that impacted you?
Those extra days for me were a blessing. I know there was some issues that people thought, oh my gosh, this is such a drawn out process. It wasn't that. We got to sit there and talk to Cody and hold his hand. I mean, granted, he wasn't talking back, but we got to be with him. We got to, smell him, touch him, feel him, and know that, he was still there with us. And it gave us extra time to tell his story and for people to know him. Even though he couldn't tell them about himself, we were able to do that. We were able to show pictures. His friends that were there were able to, tell stories. And those are the things that Randy and I both, we go back and we talk about that time and the stories and the impact that he had in a small community, but had such a big heart. And that gives us some comfort too, because if he wouldn't have been a donor, we wouldn't have had that extra time with him. We wouldn't have, and we did. And it's not the time we wanted to have with him, but it was still time, and time is so precious. So we cherish that. We honestly do, and we talk about it, and that's something that we just have to hold on to.
Yeah, thank you. Cindy, is there anything you'd like to add about that extra time?
It helps with closure. I know a lot of people don't get that, but that extra day and a half we had, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Because a lot of people don't get what we got out of that.
And then I know I said my last question was my final question, but I have one more. What would you say to a family who has already made the decision to allow their loved one to be a donor, but are still really struggling with that decision, and they're really, really fresh in their grief.
I think for us, we found a support group it's just for parents that have lost siblings or have lost children, but we found a support group, and you have to talk about it. You cannot close that door on communication. And I know we've both been at different parts in our grief process, but where he's at, maybe I've already been through. So you have to talk. You have to find somebody to talk to. And I called down here a couple of times and said, hey, I'm really struggling. Can you guys help me out? Can you recommend something? Or I've seen him struggling, and I don't know I don't have all the answers, but they've even helped us get resources. And I really feel like for us, it's been communication. We have been an open book. We've found things. He races, so that's his out, and I know when he's on the racetrack, that's his baby, and that's how he deals sometimes. If he can't talk about it, he races, and I think you just have to, I honestly feel like the number one thing is communication, and finding something that makes you feel whole again, because you're never going to be whole again. There's going to be that empty spot in your heart, but something that makes you feel alive. And that's honestly what has gotten me through this.
What kind of racing do you like?
Dirt track racing, basically any kind of racing. Yeah, no.
He does dirt track,
Yeah,
but yeah.
yeah.
But that's his out, and I've never told him not to do it. He took a year off after Cody passed because that was Cody and his, they were out in the barn always working on Randy drove, Cody usually fixed things, so there was always, like that, oh gosh, love-hate relationship with them. And but they had so many good laughs and good times out there, and he took that year off and then went back out and just pursued it wholeheartedly. And that's wonderful for him, and I think it helps him let go of some of that, because you go through all those stages, and you just got to find something and somebody to talk to. I can talk to him, but I also have a best friend that's been there since it happened, and she lets me talk about it. She cries, I cry, we try to figure it out, but sometimes there aren't answers.
I think the biggest fear is, as parents, is people forgetting about him, not saying his name. That's the hardest thing for me.
Yeah.
Do you feel like donation has given you an avenue to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because people, even though we don't know a lot about all of the recipients, we do know about, the kid that got his heart, and people will ask, well, how's he doing? Or, and that to me is also asking about how's Cody, and they kind of go hand in hand. And so, but we always, there's not a day that goes by that we don't talk about
Yeah.
Cody, or, donation too, really, and it's a big part of our lives. We're advocates now for Indiana Donor Network. We signed up for that 3 months after he passed away because we had such, we just wanted to help you guys like you had helped us. Every day is a new day, and every day is a new challenge after you lose somebody. And no matter what was going on, if we had a question, somebody was there to get us through that and make us feel just as important as we had when Cody, when he passed away. So we wanted to give that back too by being advocates and helping other people.
And the recipient, he sends us a Facebook stuff on Cody's birthday, and it just
He got
it's-
some medals when he competed in the Paralympic Games, and I don't know, it was across the pond. Anyway, he sent us one of those too, so we have that with Cody's stuff. You know, those things you look at and it just brings a smile to your face. You know, knowing that Cody continues to help people live is the biggest gift and blessing us as parents could ask for.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story, letting us get to know Cody. And it sounds like you raised a very, very generous young man who made himself the decision to sign up, and then you all have continued to that legacy. So we really appreciate it, and we appreciate you being advocates and being here today.
Thank you.
That's all we have, unless you all have anything else you'd like to share.
Do you have anything?
I actually might add a question, if you don't mind.
absolutely.
No, no.
Randy, it sounds like you've been such a source of support for Julie. That's amazing. Can you talk a little bit about what it's like to be married to someone who is waiting for a gift of her own?
It's very hard to see the pain she goes through every day. I get up in the morning at 6 o'clock. I go to work. I come home. As soon as I get home, I hook her up to dialysis, and it's a 3.5 hour process. And it's an everyday thing. It's not, one day on, one day off. It's every day. And we've been doing that for
6 years.
6 years. And, she has her good days, she has her bad days. We don't go anywhere, we can't get out of the house. We just, we're stuck to our comfort zone at home. But to see the pain that she goes through every day is hard. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, I think I speak for all of us that you are a very inspiring couple.
Thank you.
We really thank you for being here today.
We thank you for having us, When Lindsay said, "Oh, Mom, I'm